Well, wouldn't you know it, the jobs report just confirmed we are not getting the rate cuts we were all expecting. In a statement by the acting Secretary of Labor today, quote, "The Bureau of Labor and Statistics reported that the economy added 303,000 jobs in March, and the unemployment rate ticked down to 3.8%. Last month, it was at 3.9. She said, "This report once again demonstrates the steady growth and a strong labor market with a 3-month average of 276,000 in job gains." So that's the headline. But if you scan the internet and YouTube for coverage about the report, it's all positive and the economy has never been better. But there sure is a lot they seem to be leaving out, and rightfully so in an election year. But let's take a closer look at this and you can decide for yourselves what's real and what's not. According to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, in March, the U.S. added 303,000 jobs. The expectations were for 212,000, so this report blew past expectations. Jobs were created mostly in healthcare, government, leisure and hospitality, as well as construction and retail. But that's basically where all the good news ends. Full-time employment fell by 6,000. Industrial workers fell by 161,000. And according to this report by Advisor Perspectives, full-time employment now only makes up 82.6% of the share of employment, which is the lowest level since October of 2020. So taking all this collectively, it seems as though there is a downward trend in full-time employment with an upward trend in part-time employment. I wonder if that also explains why the average hourly earnings in the US is on the decline. Is it maybe because all the jobs being added are only part-time jobs? To go along with this trend of fantastic jobs numbers is the fact that people with multiple jobs is up 217,000. According to this chart, it looks as if 500,000 people have taken on secondary employment since last year. Well, I wonder why that could be. Could it be because companies are actually laying off and they're not really hiring? Or could it be because is just so expensive, people need to have a second job to keep up? Yep, nothing to see here, folks. Everything is fine. Move along now. So we have the economy adding 303,000 jobs, yet at the same time, full-time positions have fell by 6,000, as well as industrial positions falling by 160-some thousand. So you might be asking yourself, where exactly did the 303,000 jobs from this fantastic jobs report come from? Well, part-time workers, of course. That's right. For some reason, the mainstream media and the government thinks it's actually a good thing to add a bunch of part-time jobs to the economy. According to the report, there are 26.8 million part-time workers. And as of only this March, this jobs reading that we're talking about in this video, there were 691,000 part-time jobs added to the economy. So this fantastic jobs report that everyone had been talking about on social media and the president himself was touting was mainly comprised of part-time jobs being added to the economy. Now ask yourself, do you think part-time jobs being added to the economy is actually a good thing? If you have an overabundance of part-time jobs being added to the economy and a decrease in full-time jobs being added to the economy, and sometimes even none at all, what does that actually tell you about what's going on? And I guess my question is, why does everyone think that this is a good thing, or why are they trying to make it seem like this is a good thing? When in all actuality, full-time employment is falling, and if it's not falling and staying the same, people are having to take on other jobs in order to just keep up because everything is so expensive and inflation is still here, although they're telling us that it is under control. Why are they making it seem like part-time jobs being added to the economy is such a great thing? Is there something I'm missing here? Maybe there's an economist that's watching this video and can explain to me why all these part-time jobs being added to the economy and yet full-time jobs being on the decline is such a good thing. In a separate report, there's data showing native-born workers accounting for almost zero job creation in the US, with foreign-born workers outpacing natives being employed. Now, there is some controversy as to who is considered a foreign-born worker. Is that someone who has been here for a certain amount of years and has a green card, or is it simply a foreign-born person? But nonetheless, where are these workers coming from? Who is accounting for this 691,000 plus part-time jobs being added to the economy? Well, ironically enough, and politics aside, immigration has seen a 4.5 million increase since President Biden took office, which is a new record high, setting at 49.5 million. So the foreign share of the US population is the highest in history as of October of 2023. So is this where most of these jobs are being created? I'll basically leave that up to you to decide, but statistically, these jobs have to be coming from somewhere. And if you refer to the chart that shows where most of these job gains were created the last few months, you'll see again that it was leisure and hospitality, construction. I mean, these are all very seasonal type jobs. And they're also jobs that are typically part-time employment. So this could signal that some of these jobs quite possibly are going to immigrants. So what exactly does this mean for the economy? What does it mean if most of these jobs are part-time jobs being created and mainstream media and the government is touting these reports as being really great for the economy? Well, it means that the Fed is not going to be cutting rates as many times as everyone thinks this year, if they're going to cut them at all, especially if we continue to get these quote-unquote good jobs reports in the future, because the Fed does not need to cut rates if the economy is doing well, ironically enough. And if you ask me, and of course I'm not an economist, these numbers look terrible. And most of the time, except for the last two readings, there has been downward revisions. I think up until January, there had been 12 downward revisions of the last 13 readings. So these numbers don't necessarily look great to me, but again, I'm not an economist. I'd like for maybe someone who is an economist to chime in the comments down below, but they certainly aren't going to be cutting rates unless there is some kind of looming disaster. If it confuses you as to why the Fed wouldn't cut rates if the economy is doing well, it's because they don't need to. They are trying to balance the economy, and if they were to lower rates, that would only increase the likelihood of inflation shooting back up again. See, the reason that we are in this mess is because the government pumped all that cheap money into the economy, which caused a lot of the inflation that we are left with today. And all these jobs numbers aside, inflation is still not really under control. You and I can see that when we go to the grocery store. I've made plenty of videos about this. And no matter what they keep saying, you and I can tell that inflation is not under control. So if they were to lower rates again and pump all that cheap money into the economy, it would only make matters worse. Remember, they're not trying to stop inflation and reverse it. They're basically just slowing the rate at which all the goods, all the prices of these goods increase. So inflation is basically here to stay. All these high prices, all these inflated prices that we have now are basically here to stay. It's just a matter of them controlling the rate at which the prices increase. And all this comes on the backdrop of an election year. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, you can search jobs reports March and there is virtually no bad press over this. So nobody's really talking about the fact that most of this is just part-time work. So I'd be curious what you think in the comments down below. I'm curious if you think the fact that these are mostly part-time jobs affects the economy. I do understand this is a little bit complicated and the Fed is trying to balance both sides, but these just seem like terrible numbers. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's all I got for this video, guys. And as always, the only way for you to be prepared is to stay informed. So if you could please smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.